The very things you despise about yourself, the quirks, the scars, the edges you try to sand down, are often the exact things that made him fall in love with you. What you call flaws, he calls home. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And yet, love often begins where self-acceptance ends. Where you see imperfection, he sees the truth of you. Picture this. You stand in front of the mirror, pulling at your reflection, as though you could stretch it into something smoother, softer, more acceptable. You hear yourself whispering the cruelest words, not from the mouth of another, but from your own mind. Why are you like this? Who could want this? Later, you apologize for laughing too loudly at dinner. You shrink when your emotions spill over in tears. You hold back a story because you think you sound ridiculous. Deep down, you ask the question no one hears. Why would he love this part of me? Isn't this the very thing people leave for? And yet, he doesn't leave. In fact, he leans closer. When you hide your crooked smile in photographs, he says it's the smile that makes you unforgettable. When you call yourself too sensitive, he swears it is that very tenderness that drew him in. The paradox becomes unbearable. How can the very things you try to erase be the reasons he clings to you? Let us pause here. This is not a lecture about self-love cliches, nor is it a plea for blind acceptance. I am not here to tell you to simply embrace every scar and every insecurity without question. No. Our aim is not to blame, nor to soothe with easy words. It is to understand, to see beneath the surface, to uncover the deeper psychology of why love attaches itself not to perfection, but to imperfection. The parts of yourself you hide, deny, or label unworthy, these form what Jung called the shadow. And love, in its strange wisdom, is often drawn precisely there. Why? Because what is hidden longs to be seen. What is unloved longs to be held. What you call a flaw may be nothing less than the doorway through which love recognizes you. Stay with me, for by the end of this journey, you will see your so-called flaws not as burdens you drag into love, but as living threads woven into the fabric of intimacy itself. You may walk away with a question that could change everything. What if the very thing you reject in yourself is the very thing he cannot live without? You have stood before a mirror and felt the quiet cruelty of your own gaze. The eye travels too quickly to the small imperfection, the line, the asymmetry, the mark of living. Instead of seeing a whole, radiant presence, you see fragments, each one a reason to withdraw, to shrink, to apologize for existing exactly as you are. This is the strange double vision you live with. Two selves, forever in conflict. There is the ideal self, the one you think you must be, polished and perfect, endlessly pleasing. And then there is the actual self, the one who stumbles, who laughs too loudly, who cannot hold back tears when the world pierces her heart. And because these two selves do not align, you carry a constant, secret tension, the sense that you are always falling short. Think of this. A woman hides her crooked smile in photographs, pressing her lips together so that the imperfection will not betray her. She has trained herself in this art of concealment, certain that to reveal too much is to reveal what is unlovable. Yet one evening, when she forgets and lets the laughter spill out of her, teeth tilt, crookedness and all. He looks at her as though she is lit from within. And later, he tells her, "That smile, that was when I knew." What she sought to erase was, to him, the very sign of life. To her, it was a flaw. To him, it was the mark of truth. Why? Because love does not hunger for perfection. It hungers for reality. The mask may impress, but it does not nourish. What nourishes is the glimpse of the soul unguarded, the laugh that erupts unplanned, the vulnerability that cannot be polished away. This is why your lover sees beauty where you see brokenness. He is not deluded. He is not blind. He is responding to something you have forgotten how to see. That authenticity is magnetic. That what you reveal without control, without calculation, carries a raw humanity no persona can ever reproduce. And so the mirror deceives you. The reflection you criticize is not the truth. It is only the image refracted through the harsh lens of comparison and idealization. You stand too close to your own face. You see flaws because you have trained yourself to search for them. But love looks differently. Love does not dissect. Love beholds. Love does not scan for error. It rests in the presence of the whole. Where you see the scar, he sees the story. Where you see the trembling, he sees the tenderness. Where you see the crookedness, he sees the mark of being uniquely, unrepeatably you. And so the first step in this journey is to question the authority of the mirror. For perhaps the mirror has been lying to you all along. Perhaps the harshness you hear in your own voice is not truth, but conditioning. Not reality, but repetition of every criticism you have absorbed. What if the one who loves you is not blinded by affection, but awakened by a sight more accurate than your own? What if his way of seeing is not naive, but prophetic, a reminder of how you might one day learn to see yourself? This is the invitation of love, to suspend your harsh judgment long enough to wonder whether your flaws are flaws at all, or whether they are the unpolished windows through which intimacy recognizes you. In this way, perception itself becomes a mirror. You look at yourself and see error. He looks at you and sees essence. Which mirror will you choose to believe? Which vision will you allow to define the story you tell about yourself? Here lies the beginning of transformation, realizing that the eyes of love may, in fact, be the clearer mirror. There are parts of you that you have quietly exiled. Perhaps it happened when you were still very young, when someone laughed at your tears, or told you that your anger was ugly, or that your enthusiasm was too much. Those words landed like stones, and slowly you learned to push certain qualities deep underground. You did not erase them. You cannot erase what is innate, but you buried them in a place Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the container of all you have disowned. It is the cupboard where you hide the pieces you fear would cost you love. Some of these pieces are raw wounds, yes, but others are pure gold, intensity, sensitivity, passion, that once frightened others, but are in truth the heartbeat of your soul. Now here is the paradox. While you treat these hidden plights as dangerous, they are often the very parts that others fall in love with. He sees what you call too much and whispers, "That is exactly why I need you." He sees the thing you apologize for, and instead of recoiling, he leans closer. Consider this. A woman apologizes constantly for her emotions. She tells him, "I'm sorry. I cry too easily. I'm too sensitive. I can't help it." To her, her tears are weakness, evidence of instability. But to him, her tears are sacred. They are the proof that she feels deeply, that she is alive in a world that numbs most people. In her sensitivity, he finds a doorway back to his own buried tenderness. What she calls a flaw is, to him, a lifeline. Why does this happen? Because love is not only attraction between two bodies. Love is an unconscious search for wholeness. When he meets you, he is not only seeing you, he is also meeting parts of himself that have long been asleep. Your intensity, your sensitivity, your laughter, your vulnerability, they awaken in him the qualities he has hidden from himself. Without realizing it, he is drawn to you, not in spite of your shadow, but because of it. Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Relationships often feel like fate because they draw us toward the very qualities we have lost or rejected in ourselves. Your lover may be unconsciously searching for his own wholeness, and he finds it shimmering in the parts of you that you wish you could erase. This is why your wounds attract love. Not because pain is romantic, not because suffering is beautiful, but because what you have hidden is still alive, still glowing, still demanding to be seen. The shadow calls out, and love answers. Think of a man who once loved a woman's fire, her quick temper, her refusal to shrink, her way of speaking truth, even when it burned. She hated this about herself, convinced that her anger made her unlovable. Yet, he loved it, because in her fire, he found something his own soul was starving for: the courage to say what he himself could not. Her flaw was not a flaw at all. It was the missing element of his own completeness. What you call too loud, he calls vibrant. What you call too emotional, he calls alive. What you call too much, he calls exactly enough. And here lies the secret. He is not falling in love with your flaw as flaw. He is falling in love with the hidden wholeness inside it. For every shadow contains its opposite. In your tears lives tenderness. In your fire lives courage. In your awkwardness lives authenticity. Love sees through the surface to the deeper gift. So when you ask yourself, why would he love this about me? Isn't this the very thing that drives people away? The answer may be this: because in that very place of shame lies the thing he himself has been unconsciously searching for. Your flaw is not a burden you drag into the relationship. It is a bridge between what you have hidden and what he has forgotten. A bridge that leads both of you closer to wholeness. This is why it is so dangerous to polish yourself into perfection. Perfection isolates. It is flawless, but it is also sterile. What creates intimacy is not perfection, but vulnerability. The willingness to be seen in your incompleteness. And so your shadow, the place you wanted to hide forever, becomes the very doorway through which love enters. And now I will ask you to pause. Think of the one thing you most often apologize for, the part of yourself you secretly wish you could delete. Could it be that this very thing is not your enemy, but your gift? Could it be that this flaw is the very reason someone has loved you or will love you? For what you call the wound, he may call the reason he found you. And what you bury in the shadow, love may lift into the light. There is a truth about love that most people overlook. When you fall for someone, you are not just falling for them. You are also meeting a hidden part of yourself through them. Jung called these inner figures the Anima and the Animus. Every man carries within him an inner feminine image, the Anima. Every woman carries within her an inner masculine image, the Animus. These archetypes live in the unconscious, shaping how we see, desire, and connect. When he looks at you, he does not see only you. He also sees the reflection of his own anima, his inner feminine, mirrored back in your face, your voice, your gestures. And here lies the mystery. The qualities you call flaws may be the exact qualities that bring his inner feminine to life. Imagine this. You cry easily, sometimes over small things. You scold yourself afterward. Why can't I be stronger? Why am I like this? But he watches you cry and feels something stirring within him, something tender, something almost forgotten. Your tears awaken his buried sensitivity, the anima within him that has long been silenced by a world that told him men must be hard, stoic, unshaken. Where you see weakness, he sees permission. Where you feel shame, he feels homecoming. And it works both ways. Women, too, often find themselves drawn to the imperfections of men. Perhaps he stumbles over words when he is nervous. Perhaps his voice cracks when he speaks about something close to his heart. Perhaps his uncertainty slips through the armor he usually wears. And you, instead of recoiling, feel a tenderness rising inside. His flaw is not a flaw. It is his animus, his inner masculine, showing itself in vulnerability. You fall for the crack in the armor because it reveals the truth beneath. Do you see the paradox? Love does not seek perfection. It seeks the awakening of what has been asleep inside us. The so-called flaws act as keys, unlocking doors to inner figures we have not fully met. His attraction to your so-called flaws is not irrational. It is archetypal. His inner anima recognizes itself in you. Consider this. A man is drawn to a woman's intensity, her passion that sometimes overwhelms even her. She worries constantly that she is too much. But to him, her fire is not too much at all. It is a mirror of his own inner flame, long buried under discipline and restraint. She reminds him of something he carries inside, but rarely allows to surface. Her too much is exactly enough for his soul. Or think of a woman drawn to a man's awkwardness, his way of stumbling through a conversation, his unpolished laugh, the way he admits when he is afraid. She sees in him something her animus has been longing for. Honesty, humility, the courage to be human. What the world might label as imperfection, she experiences as truth. So when he says, "I love that about you," in response to the very thing you wish you could erase, pause. It may not be flattery. It may not be blindness. It may be recognition. His anima has awakened in your laughter, your tears, your fire, your tenderness, and in that awakening, love takes root. Because love is not about perfection. It is about resonance. It is about one soul recognizing in another the echo of something it has carried all along. And what you call your flaw may be the very sound that awakens his deepest song. There is a paradox hidden at the heart of love. What you try most desperately to conceal is often the very thing that draws him closer. You call it a weakness, you label it a flaw, and yet he remembers the moment it revealed itself to him as the moment he truly saw you. Think of the scar you once traced with shame, trying to cover it with makeup or clothing. You thought it was a mark of brokenness, but when he kissed it, he wasn't kissing damage, he was kissing the story, the survival, the proof that you lived through what might have undone you. Or imagine the way your voice sometimes stutters when you are nervous. You feel the flush of embarrassment, the instinct to apologize, to smooth it away. But for him, that small crack in composure makes you human. It disarms him. It allows him to breathe, to admit that he too is imperfect. What you call clumsy, he experiences as intimacy. Why is this so? Because vulnerability is the hidden architecture of love. Perfection isolates. It builds walls too smooth to climb. But the wound, the imperfection, the soft crack becomes a doorway. It is through that doorway that two people step into each other's inner world. Jung spoke of the archetype of the wounded healer, the idea that it is precisely through our wounds that we become capable of healing, of connecting, of offering something real to another. A person who has never known pain can offer sympathy, perhaps, but not depth. A person who has never stumbled cannot extend a hand to someone who has fallen. Our wounds are not barriers to love. They are the conduits of it. Perfection is sterile. It gives nothing to hold on to. Vulnerability, however, offers a handhold, a softness where another soul can rest. This is why your so-called flaws, the scar, the stutter, the awkward laugh, are not liabilities in love. They are invitations. They whisper, "Here I am." Not the mask, not the performance, just me. And he, hearing that whisper, leans in rather than pulling away. This is not sentimentality. It is archetypal truth. Jung showed us that the wound is not only a personal scar, but a symbolic one. It represents the place where life touched us most deeply, where the unconscious broke through the surface. And when you share that wound, you are not only letting him know you, you are allowing him to touch the archetypal story of what it means to be human. So when you want to apologize for your cracks, pause. Ask yourself, what if this very crack is the place where love enters? What if the things you try to erase are the exact things that let him meet you, not as an idea, not as a mask, but as a soul? Because love, in its deepest form, is not the meeting of two flawless beings. It is the meeting of two wounded ones who find in each other's scars a reflection of their own. And in that reflection, a bond unbreakable. So when you want to apologize for your cracks, pause. Ask yourself, what if this very crack is the place where love enters? What if the things you try to erase are the exact things that let him meet you, not as an idea, not as a mask, but as a soul. Because love in its deepest form is not the meeting of two flawless beings. It is the meeting of two wounded ones who find in each other's scars a reflection of their own, and in that reflection, a bond unbreakable. And now, the mirror turns. All this time, you have been listening to why he calls your flaws the reasons he fell in love. But the deeper question is this: what does your resistance to his love reveal about you? Why does it feel so hard to believe him when he says, "I love that about you"? Perhaps it is not his love you doubt, but your own. Perhaps the unease you feel is not about him misunderstanding you, but about you misunderstanding yourself. Jung once said that what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Could it be that the part of you that cringes when he calls your flaw beautiful is not proof that he is lying, but evidence that your shadow is speaking? That unloved, unseen part of you knocking at the door, asking to be let in. Look carefully. When he loves you in the very place you reject yourself, it is not a mistake. It is an invitation. He is not trying to fix you or flatter you. He is mirroring back the truth that love has seen in you all along. And the question becomes, will you allow yourself to believe it? Will you accept that the flaw you have fought against may, in fact, be the most human, most luminous part of you? So I will leave you with this. If he can see beauty in the place you see brokenness, why can't you? What if the unease you feel is the signal, not of being unworthy, but of being called to wholeness? What if his love is not blindness, but clarity? I want to ask you something, not as a lecture, but as an invitation. Think of one flaw you have carried like a burden. One thing you always feared was too much or not enough. Now remember a time when someone you loved cherished that very thing. How did they see it differently? How did they hold it as beautiful, even when you could not? Share that story in the comments, because when you speak it aloud, you may find that what you thought was your shame has always been your gift. And if this journey gave you a new lens, if it allowed you to breathe differently in the presence of your own reflection, then honor that shift. Like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell, because we will continue traveling together into the hidden landscapes of love, of psyche, and of soul. The journey does not end here. It only deepens.